Hello, good morning, and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. I'm your host, Samson Ladi Anyanini. There seemed to be a police revolution in simply enforcing law and order. Ghanaians are super excited, even at this fear of police simply to stay lawful. It's like the fear of God to do good. Traditional priests, pastors, and malams have been speaking about the fear of the IGP Dampare. He has warned them there are potential criminal implications, consequences for excessive noise making, declaring and camping old women and the mentally sick in chains and flogging them in their churches and their shrines, broadcasting harm and death to public figures, causing fear and panic and disturbing the public peace. Those who feel important and above the law, those who use to walk to people's homes to threaten them, those drivers and passengers who stop at any point to urinate on the streets, those who brandish guns in public, those who get into dangerous display at Opebia in their expensive car, those who publicly lie that they have been shot, those who fake their kidnap, and those who jump traffic, all of them, big and small, trotro mates, or Prophet One, celebrity, or whoever you are getting arrested, prosecuted, and jailed. But are they overstepping their bounds, attempting to arrest an MP suspected of breach of the law at a demonstration? I know, we have seen the police trending on the Twitter trends. So you love what's happening because it is for our individual and collective good and security. Question this morning: what's your role in sustaining this zeal for law and order? How will religion enhance law and order? We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Atto. You can catch up with all the fun and inspiration on the Joy Sports link here on Joy 99.7 FM, together with all other shows over and over again. It's very simple. All you need to do is go to myjoyonline.com/podcast and relive all of those fun moments over and over again. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's the most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. I'll invite you over the issues that we are going to discuss this morning to send us your messages, your questions, your complaints, because I have the right people to give you the answers. The police is here, ably represented, and of course, we have a lawyer, and we also have the clergy participating in this discussion. Now, I quickly say Samson's take: jobless security threats. And I say this very briefly, that the state intends to employ some 2,000 people into the immigration service. Like what happens in other public sector recruitment, there must be a huge protocol list and places that will be sold. Whatever the case, it is almost criminal for me, almost criminal, to have thousands of our young, jobless people gather at stadia and parks all over the country, the way and manner we continue to see. It's unsightly. When will this ritual, in violation of their dignity, end? I think that keeping these people in long queues and in the sun, the way we continue to see, doesn't speak well, particularly of the security agencies and the manner they go about their recruitment. The queues start as early as by 4 a.m. and they never end until in the evening. You see these young people sweating in the sun, in the stadia, and in these parks. This has been the case almost always. I believe there can be some structure to avoid having it this way, more particularly when you do not intend to recruit so many. In each region, they turn out in their thousands. Something can be done to avoid this unsightly sin or sins that we see. It obviously is security threat, as Professor Kwesi tells us, to see thousands of young people all running after just a few places or spots left in the security services. We must pay attention. And that's my take. I return quickly to introduce my guest to you. This show is brought to you by Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Ashasi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing. We lead. Home is where one starts. Star Assurance, your solid partner. MG Auto Trading, official distributors of MG vehicles in Ghana. CBG, we stand with you. Fabrimental, your partner in steel. And Rehoboth Properties. Don't go anywhere. Just begin to pick your phone or your tablet and start typing your contribution, your questions, your complaints, and what you think should be your role in sustaining the zeal for the enforcement of law and order in this country, beyond getting onto social media and getting excited that there's some sanity returning into the system. We'll be right back.
What's up, guys? My name is Sammy Forson, host of the Weekend City Show and Ignition right here on Joy 99.7 FM. Well, anytime you happen to be busy and you miss out on your favorite shows right here on Joy FM, here's what you can do. Log on to myjoyonline.com/podcast. Just go on there and you'll find all your shows on demand 24/7. There you can catch up. Remember, Joy FM remains your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Our guest this morning, ACP Kwesi Ofori. He is Acting Director General of Public Affairs, Ghana Police Service. Thank you so very much for making the time to be with us.
Thank you, sir.
And here also is, it looks like ACE. ACE Ankuma. Ace Ankuma. He's a lawyer. Of course, you haven't heard him or seen him on TV in a long time. How we managed to get him into this studio, it's a story to be told another day. Thank you so very much, Ace. We are very grateful. Sheikh Arimiao Shaibo is spokesperson, national chief for the National Chief Imam, and he's the acting chairman of CODEO. Thank you, Sheikh, for making the time to join us this morning. Please unmute your mic. Yes, let's see if we can hear you. Try again.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, that's clean. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good by grace. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Also joining us.
Good to hear your voice.
Also joining us is Reverend Professor J. Kwabena Asamoah Jedu, who is Minister, Methodist Church, Ghana, and President, Trinity Theological Seminary, Legon. Thank you for joining us, Prof.
Well, thank you for welcoming me, and I greet my co-panelists this morning.
Thank you very much indeed. And like I said earlier, we are inviting your comments, questions, complaints. The police must carry us along what they are doing. And that's what we are seeking to gauge this morning. They must carry us along. Let's have your messages, your questions, your complaints. Send them right now. In fact, at a point, we may give you the opportunity to join by phone. And talking about criminal law, I'd like to say a special happy birthday to one of Ghana's foremost criminal law experts, the woman sought after by the AU, the UN, and globally in international affairs, Professor Henrietta Joy Abena Nyako Mensa Bonsu, Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana. Happy birthday. Very many of us, our former teacher and affable Professor Mensa Bonsu.
She supervised my dissertation at the law school.
Okay.
And has remained a mentor since then.
Great. She continues to teach us from afar.
Criminal law, commercial law. She taught everything.
Right. Yesterday was your birthday. Happy birthday once again, Prof. Now, let's get to... I'd like to begin with, not with you, the police, even though we will need to get to know what you are doing, because we have seen your presence in various places. People, I read in the news yesterday, I was just looking for, I put it actually up here. Somebody said he has been jumping traffic for a long time. And this is one of the famous preachers in town. But he says now he's mindful. He doesn't want to try. Let me begin with Sheikh. Sheikh, what's the feeling like? What's your experience? What do you see happening in the front of policing in Ghana?
Thank you so much. And let me also add my voice to your congratulations to Professor Henrietta Mensah. She's one that I have a personal relationship with, and I am happy to know that her birthday, fell yesterday. So, Prof, if you are listening to me, this is your own friend, Sheikh Arimiao, wishing you the best in your life, all life of sacrifices and service to nation.
I can assure you she's listening. She's watching.
I'm happy about that.
All right.
Yes. Samson, there came a time when my heart bled. Anytime I have seen a policeman being manhandled by the public, I have felt so worried. This is an institution put in place in our democracy to ensure public order and bring discipline as part of our experience and to protect property. For those of us who are not strong and weak, who do not have the power, when we have no place to go, it is the police that guarantees our protection. So for you to see a policeman being manhandled was something that I consider so serious, and my heart bled anytime I have felt so sad, anytime I have seen a policeman being manhandled. But contrary to what we have seen in the past, a new wind of order is blowing with the appointment of the new IGP. And I have a personal relationship with him, and he has visited the chief imam to seek his blessing whilst he was waiting to be confirmed as the IGP. And some of the things I've seen sometimes I've seen some presence around certain places. I've seen policemen at traffic light compelling motorbikes to stop at red lights, contrary to the previous practice, where we see, even in the presence of the police, we see Okada riders, with impunity, would be driving across the red light to the risk of other road users. What even confirms, what gives even more happiness to me is the attempt to bring stakeholders together, i.e. the last meeting we had was with religious bodies, because religion plays a significant role in our social, economic, and political life. And our population in this country, I can confirm, more than 90% of the population of the country belong to one religion or the other. So if you put us together, religion can claim about 95% of the population. And so therefore, for us to ensure that there's order and discipline in our country, religion plays a significant role. So it does make sense and logical for the IGP to think strategically, to bring leaders of religious faith together, to seek dialogue with us, and to seek our cooperation, so that together we are on one page when it comes to enforcement in order to sanitize our environment. So I feel happy. I feel new, inspired. A certain wind of sanity is blowing, and we must really continue to give. That's my initial impression.
Thank you. Prof, I'd like to hear you also, what you feel is happening, if you feel the same as many Ghanaians are feeling, and they have taken to social media. They associate the name Dampare with all the good things you can talk about as far as discipline is concerned. As we talk, there are people who many felt were untouchable. They have, many have said, been shown their level. Please unmute your mic.
Thank you very much once again. And I think that the nail has been hit on the head. But first, let me also congratulate my dear big sister, Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu, her ladyship. I'm very honored to be with her in the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. So we share a lot also in common. Now, I will say three things in relation to the question that you have asked. It has to do with policing. If you ask my candid opinion on this matter, I think that it got to a point where you can describe Ghana as having become very lawless. And part of the lawlessness arises out of the politicization of our institutions, public institutions. Now, show me one institution in this country that has not been demonized. From the Supreme Court to the Ghana Police, I mean, every institution in this country will try to undermine if decisions are made that does not go in our favor. So we want to thank the new IGP for the new, if you like, breath of vim, energy, transparency, seriousness that he's bringing into policing. But at the same time, I think that in order to help him, we should also recognize those he's working with. But most importantly, if we can avoid the politicization, there's something else that I want to add to the politicization. Is the extent to which the police service in particular is compromised, both by members of the public and also by institutions. I have not seen anywhere in the world where public institutions donate computers, office equipment to the police service. Because if you allow the public to do that, it undermines and compromises the authority. So let's recognize their sacrifices. Let's thank God for the new IGP. But let's also put our house in order to avoid politicization and also undermining the authority that they have.
Thank you very much, Reverend Professor J. Kwabena Asamoah Jedu. Now, Ace, some say the police is even beginning to act out of its authority and seeking to arrest MPs. Some are so excited that the police will feel bold enough to even dare to arrest an MP. Is something happening right for you?
Absolutely. I believe that we're probably on the verge of proving Obama wrong. Obama came to Accra and claimed that it is not about strong men or women, it's about strong institutions, but it is about strong institutions. He got the conjunction wrong. You can have the strong institutions, but if you don't have the leadership, the men and women with a spine to take advantage of the strong institutions on paper, they remain strong institutions on paper, and that has been Ghana's problems. The police is a very strong institution, but on paper. Every law that the police needs to make sure that this country is safe exists on paper. We are just unwilling, unprepared, or unable to put those laws into practice because the one who leads is not strong. And so Obama's mistake was the but. What we need are strong institutions run by strong men and women. And so when those two meet, then you begin to see results like this. So it's not necessarily about the man or woman in the leadership position. It is about the institution and the leader. The vision that the leader brings to the institution. That is what shapes it and keeps it going. I like to give an example I always give. I'm driving in another country. I'm probably doing 35 to 40 miles in the 20-mile zone. I honestly did not see the sign. The police flashed me. I park up the road. They pick my Ghanaian driver's license and put their infrared thing on it, and immediately my name and everything appears in their system. I'm given a ticket, $75. There's no begging. There's no explanation. In fact, he explained to me why he had stopped me. He said that, well, this place has 20 on a Sunday because children are home and they tend to run across the street in chasing their balls and other things they are playing with, which run across the road. So we bring the speed limit down on Sundays. He said, I was watching you. I saw you were watching your GPS, so you didn't see it. But so I just sat and listened to him. He gave me the ticket. There and then, I pulled out and paid using my Ghana ATM card.
Okay.
Gave me right then I had the details. I paid and drove off to where I was going to. Compare that to you're going to Takoradi for a funeral on Friday night. You go 60 in a 50 lane, the police stop you. Your first instinct is to argue. I won't dare argue with that other policeman. I paid, the money I paid, 450 cedis. Hot, paid. I won't dare argue then. I argue, well, they give me the ticket. In my mind, should I give this policeman 20 cedis and go away? I decide that, no, I want to be righteous. I want to go to court. So court is on Monday. So I go and stay in a hotel. I have to pay hotel bills for Monday, actually Tuesday. When you go to court on Tuesday, it's adjourned 2 weeks. So you come back to Accra, possibly get a lawyer, go back 2 weeks later, only to be fined, what, 200 cedis. You are paid more in fuel or flying bills and hotel than the fine.
Right.
So what would you do? Is it wisdom to say, Master J, for the weekend? Or is it wisdom to say, I want to face the law? This is a system that is set up to make you fail. The system I just described in Ghana is set up to make you fail. Why can't the policeman who picked me up then give me the ticket? I don't have to appear in court, but if I don't pay, I know that the law will come after me. And today, with today's technology, this should be simple because I'm paying bills on my Ghana ATM card in another country. Why can't I pay a bill on my Ghana ATM card while sitting on my farm in Achiansi? And so the system is set up to make us feel. So over the years, we, the indisciplined Ghanaians, somehow have it in us that we need people who will lead a charge against indiscipline. And so if you look at us historically, yes, Salif Amankwa, I believe that was his name, was breaking heads at Circle, beating people for not walking where you were supposed to walk. Guess what? People walked where they were supposed to walk until he made a mistake and murdered somebody and was moved away. So his methods were not particularly legal and human rights based, but people appreciated the work he did. And so since we're talking about religion, it says where there's no vision, the people cast off restraint. So for years we have cast off restraint. When I see Supreme Court and I know that I can give him 50 CDs, I'll misbehave. But today when I see him and hear that he has a new boss who is doing the things that I hear is happening, I wouldn't dare suggest to the big man that I want to. He's a director general. He deserves the utmost respect. So that is the issue we have here. That for years we have cast off restraint. But it appears that there's a light and suddenly people are saying we have to support it. It might be us who will be picked up. Who knows? But we must support it. If urinating by this road can get you picked up. So their job as the police is not to jail you. They will process you and send you to the court. The court can decide to leave you. As for that, it's not their matter. Right. And so once we get here, you realize that maybe something is happening. So for the years of lack of vision, if a leader appears with a vision, the restraint that the people have cast off suddenly comes back and there's discipline.
Right. Now, talking about this thing that involves bribing the police accepting the bribe, what do you make of the development that on the 27th of October 2020, we amended the law as in accepting or giving bribe to influence a public officer or juror. We amended it so that the sanction has moved from misdemeanor to now 12 years minimum and 25 years maximum.
Well, I always said that the misdemeanor tag was more descriptive than real. Because although it was a misdemeanor, which meant that the maximum was 5 years, if you go to Act 30, the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act, it had an enhanced punishment regime. Yes. So what this has done is to enhance it some more. I have a problem with over-enhancing punishment because sometimes it never happens. I'll give you an example. The law we passed on the COVID, the Emergency Powers Act we passed, I forget the exact title. Yeah. The punishment was too high. What, 4 years? And so nobody ever got really tried for it. So it ought to be within bounds which are reasonable, right? So, but at the very least, it signifies that we think that it's a problem and we need to deal with it. And the first effect of this amendment is the signal it gives that we want to take this more seriously than it's been taken before. Right. But we should also be careful not to raise the minimum so high that the police themselves will feel sorry for me and not put me before court. Yes.
What this means is that now the person who is giving to the police 5 CDs, 10 CDs, is looking to minimum go to jail for 12 years for simply giving the police 5 CDs or 10 CDs. But the police officer is also in danger of getting prosecuted and going to jail for 12 to 25 years. How is that received within the service?
Yes, I think we need to look at the posture of the law, and I will say it's a good one. This is a democratic country that we are aspiring to make our nation great and strong. And for the giver and the taker should be punished by law. And I believe that the law has spoken well of it. And looking at what is happening within the police, our new Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Kufudampare, has come out and ruled out so many programs. And during his visits and meeting police officers, the anti-corruption is on his decks. It's one of his vision to make sure that we detach ourselves from such unholy practice, such criminal acts, for us to resume and have our identity, in more clearer terms. For instance, we've seen that this is the first time in a generation that the police is trying to restore its image operationally, in terms of service provision, in terms of doing away with corruption. And I believe that we need to support him, we need to support the new administration and make sure that we weed out corruption and its trace, within the service, and stay more focused in service delivery, excellence, and what have you. So all that we are saying is it's a good law, and now looking at the trend, the new wave in the service, people are beginning to see eye to eye with the Inspector General of Police and members of his administration that we need, to stop this. And
so give us an idea.
Mr. Ace Ankuma, during the last lecture, if the police or the state could
the lecture which he's talking about, we are going to have a version of it here.
Not on religion, but
religion and Ghana law.
Yeah, regard to corruption.
Okay.
He says something.
Yes.
That the state should roll out programs that will enable the police bite. And I think from his analysis, what he said, what he experienced in the U.S. or some other country.
Yes, that's in the U.S.
And Ghana, where we have the laws, but we've not implemented it. And that day he made it clear that should we implement it, one, our finances will be strong, and it will help, even funding police, whatever project the state decide.
Right.
And I believe that it is a good idea. We need not waste time, but let's empower the police, to do what is right.
Again, because you don't have that system, the officers are the ones taking the money into their pockets. And they are taking the money corruptly and criminally. When the process, if it had been properly rolled out, they would have used it to benefit your pocket, as in the organization, and empower you logistically to be able to do your work.
So I believe that now that this subject matter is being, discussed, I believe that the state authorities will look at it, because already we have the law. So there is a question of working out and ensuring that we implement it. And I believe that discussions of this nature can go far.
Right.
But I can assure you that the new wave in the police service is trying to beat down, do away with corrupt practices. And the IG is very stern on it. Members of the police administration are committed to it. And therefore, we are gradually, making sure that we sensitize our personnel. And at the same time also, we're also encouraging members of the public not, to give money to the police.
Okay. I'm going to ask you now to sort of give us a glance a bit deeper and carry this nation along. What you are doing, what is it that you are rolling out? We're seeing more presence of police around the place, and we're seeing somebody is urinating at the wrong place, Samolata Mensa, tells the person that what you are doing is wrong, and the person begins to insult him back. The next minute, that person is arrested. Somebody decides at Opebia that he's going to behave dangerously by displaying using his vehicle. He's caught. People put it on social media. The next minute, we are told police has the person in their grip and the person is facing the law. That is very refreshing. Like I'm hearing from many people saying it is refreshing to hear Ace on the show today. Now, Ace, I will come to him, and when he's done, I want to come back to you, to Prof, and to Sheikh. Someone sends a question. which is important. And I will drop the manner in which I had intended to ask that question and rather use how the police, that person wants us to ask that question. He says, and this is Anderson, Frank Anderson Jr., he's sending us a message from the UK. He says that we saw Daniel Yao Domelovo take a similar posture. He was biting and he was enforcing law. He says, we saw the same zeal with Domelovo until he touched the proverbial, quote unquote, sacred one. And the carpet got pulled under his feet. What assurance can we have that this man will continue the way he started and the police will continue to enjoy this pride? So I'll come back to them and ask. And also, you know, the religious, pastors, the clergy, someone gets into trouble, they are calling their pastor, they are calling their bishop who is influential, call the police, you know, ABC, call them. And phone calls going all around the place, chiefs, everybody doing these things. We know that even we have laws that says chiefs who are giving lands, you know, to multiple people who are selling, doing multiple sales of lands are supposed to be arrested and prosecuted. Nothing is happening to them. They touch an MP or they attempt to touch an MP, and here we have a parliament that is breathing down on the police. And the information we have is that after they attempted that arrest and stopped and made an invitation to the MP to come to them, the MP refuses. They wrote the same day to the Speaker of Parliament asking the Speaker to release the MP for them. The Speaker has written back to the police calling their bluff. No MP will be brought to you to deal with. Yes, so first of all, take us through. What exactly are you doing? What's the picture like? What do you require from us?
Thank you very much. As I stated earlier on, the new Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, has really restored that image for the police. Now, things that have been out for some time have been replaced in terms of police dignity and focused direction. And the police professional judgment is on top of affairs. And one thing is, we are not at loggerheads with members of parliament, but this is a situation where there was a demonstration, police dialogue with him, and the demonstration went on, and there was some infraction. And per the public order law, it calls for some sanctions. And the honorable member of parliament is being asked to come to the police station to submit a statement where the highway was blocked, they bent ties, obstruction to public highway, impeding vehicular movement, among other things. These are not political issues. These are issues that is based on some infraction regarding the public order law. And therefore, we see no reason why one should block the MP coming in. After all, we have other options. The police can go to court, call for a criminal summons to be served on him, and when he fails to appear, and the court in its wisdom decide to issue a warrant of arrest, the police will execute it. We are in a democratic country. We are not saying we're lording over institutions, but all that I can say is that the police administration has rolled out a lot of programs. One, let's look at operationally. We've noticed, and it was something.
If you don't mind, hold on for me. I need us to exhaust this small issue quickly. It's small but big, because I've heard people say it has the potential to roll back the confidence that is getting back into the police service. Did you hear that? What do you say to that?
Well, thanks, Samson. Well, I think, and let me add that actually the IGP's first unconstitutional act was to threaten to arrest me if I didn't show up here today.
So yes, you understand. I'm here under compulsion.
Okay.
He said, Metro. At the Wako studio. So I came to the studio.
Metro studio. That's fine.
So he'll arrest me and come and release me here. Okay. But actually, it has to do with a helicopter. So I beg, I'll come. Look, this is a direct situation, in my view, for the police to say, very well, you don't actually need to come to us. If we have sufficient cause to believe that you have committed an offense, we issue a criminal summons and leave you in the hands of the court. End of story.
When they issue a criminal summons, will that not make it even more difficult? Because the MPs, they hide under Article 118,
I was coming there.
And they are always attending to Parliament or returning from Parliament, attending to the business of Parliament or returning to the business of Parliament, even in their bedrooms.
I'm coming. So Article 117 says that civil or criminal process coming out of any court or place out of Parliament shall not be served on or executed in relation to the Speaker or a member or the clerk to Parliament while he's on his way to, attending at, returning from any proceedings of Parliament. And so if we were to go down the hard line, if they picked you up at 12 midnight at your house, that's it. But do you really want to go through that? That's what I'm saying, that we can go through a process. I believe that maybe Articles 117 and 118 are being overextended by Parliament to protect itself. How do we resolve this? I think you should issue the criminal summons and then go to the Supreme Court for an interpretation of 117 and 118. If you believe that Parliament is overextending its meaning to protect its members, let's just go to the Supreme Court. In 3 months, we'll have a decision. And then the story has ended. That's why I'm saying that the institutions exist.
But why do we need to seek interpretation of something that is not ambiguous?
No, but the Constitution, the Supreme Court says
that if a member of Parliament is driving right now and commits a traffic offense, okay, jumps the traffic light, the policeman should simply watch him.
No.
Go to Parliament and get the Speaker to issue a warrant allowing the police to pick the person.
No, you're right, and maybe not so right. That is not what it means. But that is what has been interpreted to mean. To the extent that now the police are even complying with what you believe is a wrongful interpretation. Now, you don't only go to a Supreme Court for interpretation if the provision is ambiguous. It's also if two institutions have put contrasting meanings on the same provision. So here we have the police who believe that, well, this has been overextended. We ought to be able to ask him to invite the MP, him or her, to come in for questioning. And the Speaker says, no, I won't release him. So here the Speaker has assumed the power to be the one to determine when to release, when he says that it is his certificate that the person is attending proceedings. That is conclusive evidence. His certificate. He can't say, I won't release him.
Okay.
It is your certificate. Now, if the Speaker issues a certificate that the person is attending Parliament, when the person is indeed not attending Parliament, then that's a breach of the Constitution. It could be a high crime. You see, Samson, the laws exist. So my suggestion will be, police, go to court. Ask for a constitutional interpretation of Articles 117 and 118. Let the Supreme Court tell us the circumstances under which this applies and the circumstances under which it does not apply.
They've been invited. They are most likely going to be embarrassed, or they may seek to punish them in Parliament. How do they sit and wait for all of that?
They cannot look. The power of Parliament to punish for contempt is not the same as the power of a court to punish for contempt. No, you see, if you allow everybody will seek to extend his bounds if you allow it. What you do is to restrict it by the way the law says it should be restricted. And under this social contract, we have all agreed that if we disagree that vehemently on a constitutional provision, we go to a team of 7 who will determine it. And if you are not happy, it goes to 9. Or yes, it goes to 7 because it's a constitutional issue. If you are not happy, it goes to 9. And when they speak, that's the end of the issue. So if the Speaker is issuing a false certificate, any Speaker of the Parliament, not Speaker of Ghana, we don't have Speaker of Ghana. You're Speaker of Parliament. The powers of the Speaker are constrained within Parliament. There's nothing like you speak for Ghana. The Speaker is not the 3rd president of Ghana. Neither is the Chief Justice the 4th president of Ghana. We have a president and a vice. And there are certain circumstances in which you might throw their roles. And so if you believe that any Speaker of Parliament is overextending the bounds,
we have agreed that the social contract takes us to the Supreme Court. It doesn't mean we are fighting.
Okay.
Let's just simply go and test it. Let the Supreme Court tell us that you can never arrest an MP because the Speaker says, even if he's at home, he's attending to Parliament because he's attending a meeting by Zoom. So my point is we can resolve this simply in 3 months. This issue will be resolved once and for all. We've waited all of these years, 20-something years, when we could have gone to court and resolved this in 3 months. Okay. So if this really affects your work, police, head to the Supreme Court. All right. It will be great. Inspector General of Police versus Speaker of Parliament.
Okay. Interesting. Yes.
Yes.
Let's have you that.
As we say, you know, to police, give them that respect based on, you know, a practice that has existed for some time. To inform him, it was a letter well couched with respect, at the same time carrying that authority to invite the Honorable Member of Parliament to the police station, you know, to answer some questions regarding obstruction of a public highway, burning of ties, and impeding free flow of traffic on our highways.
Because the Public Order Act says that when there are problems with demonstrations, it is the leaders you hold for responsible. The leaders will
be held accountable. Okay. And I think our action emanates from that clause of the Public Order Law. Okay. Therefore, we've not shown any sign of impunity, and I believe that we have several options, as I indicated earlier on. We can go in, you know, with a criminal summons, serve him, and if he fails, and in the wisdom of the court, it issues a warrant of arrest, then we implement it.
Your officers have been summoned before the Privileges Committee. Are you going there or you're calling their bluff?
Oh, one as a state institution, whatever it is, when that is done properly and the police administration notified, the administration may take a decision on it in line with our democratic aspirations and what have you. But I can say that the police administration is more committed, you know, in fighting indiscipline in our society, making sure that rule of law prevails and police authority and primacy prevails in all spheres of life. Okay. For instance, the traffic indiscipline that we all witness in this country, the new administration has done a lot, putting out an electronic monitoring team, making sure that we are able to police all our highways throughout the country. And it has special security camera features that we are able to zoom, store, and use it as evidence even to prosecute. As I speak to you, yesterday, V8 cars that moves along our streets with impunity have been captured. And by next week, we will be dealing with them, we'll be putting them before court. And we'll make sure that we go ahead and nothing stops us. And that is what I'm saying, that the new administration, I'll make sure that all that has been lost for years have been restored for police judgment, professionalism, and action to prevail based on law. And this is what we are doing. So in addition to all these things that we are doing, you can say that management is at work and the leadership is rolling out a lot of programs. As I said, in terms of the police, enhanced police visibility that you spoke of, armed personnel, you know, at intersection, joints, making sure that we are able to confront the present day crimes like we witnessed daylight robberies and so forth, which we've been able to nip in the bud for some weeks now. And we've gotten most of the criminals also. Some we've arrested, some they are being put before court. In the Bono East, that robbery from Petudai, Yeji, Kajeji, Kwame Danso areas, all those areas, the Northern Corridor, the Afram Plains, even as I speak to you yesterday, about 100 policemen again are being sent to Afram Plains to reinforce our position to make sure, because we know it's a food heaven and traders who go in there must go in peace. And and security also are the best security at their disposal. So everything is being done. So on the operational front, a lot is being done. And not only that, we've also seen that criminals take advantage of the cocoa season. The IGP rolled out a cocoa security program. We met the leadership of the cocoa board. And he has also tasked all regional commanders following our emergency national police conference, which he chaired, taxing them to make sure that all cocoa growing areas are well documented and security arrangement put in place. And we've seen commanders, on air, even in the print media, arranging how best they can protect cocoa farmers and the cocoa industry in general. Aside that, also we're looking at the bullion van security operations that are ongoing, making sure that armed robbers do not, rob monies from the bank and so forth. And stringent security measures have been put in place. We met the governor of Bank of Ghana and all heads of the banking, all banks in the country, and stringent security arrangements have been put in place. And it will continue to talk to them, dialogue with them, and see how best we can protect Ghana's money and monies of individuals and so forth. So we've seen sudden reduction in commission of crime in the areas of robbery, among others. And then another area that he's also looking at is putting in the K9, the dog squad, the horses in the communities, schools, areas, assisting in maintaining law and order. And all this is aimed at deterring crime. So our crime fighting spirit has grown. We've diversified it in terms of armed patrol group, vehicular patrol, static, joints and so forth, and then supported by the K9, the aggressive and notorious criminals. We are using those to deter them and get them. And then we're also looking at the intelligence aspect. Now, the Inspector General of Police have directed the creation of intelligence wings department in all the 18 regions. We have 2 police administrative regions, Tema and the Central East, that is Kaswa. In addition to the 16 police, all of them should have regional intelligence unit. And intelligence is going to play a key part in our contemporary policing. And we've seen a pace where the IGP and members of his administration are putting police on a 21st century policing map, making sure that we depend on specialized units, like, as I said, those fighting the robberies are specially trained, high-skilled in anti-robbery operations. We're seeing emergence of a strong crime scene management teams being replicated in some of the regions to make sure that things are done scientifically, to prove a point, and also to collate and gather evidence in some noted crime scenes, like what we saw at in the Bono region, Abesim, among others.
All right. I'm getting a lot of questions coming to you, but we'll keep a certain focus. Let me go to Sheikh Arimeyal and then Prof to pick your views on the question that had come earlier that I asked that you should say something about. That he started, they are doing all the right things, people are excited about it, but sometimes it doesn't take long. Sacred ones are touched, and then everything begins to fall. You, in the religious, chiefs, and the rest of them, will be making phone calls and all of that to us and beg for your congregants. How do we resolve that?
Oh, you haven't talked about lawyers also pleading on behalf of their clients. You don't have to let it off so lightly.
We are all guilty.
The pastors go and
all have fallen short.
Those who don't
yes,
know,
all have sinned.
We are hard guys.
Yeah.
I think I said at the beginning that when I say politicization, I don't mean politics in terms of just governance. I mean also undue negative interference. So I would say that, this does not only affect religious leaders, but also politicians, lawyers, people of influence generally, including those of you in the media who, when people have committed grievous offenses, appeal to go and intervene on their behalf. Sometimes there are misdemeanors for which people can receive verbal warnings and so on. But when the things are serious, as I said at the beginning, we need to let our state institutions work. And making them work also means supporting them to work and be seen to helping them to work. If you take the example that was just discussed in the case of the Member of Parliament, I mean, what would this gentleman have lost if he had just responded to a simple invitation and so on? I mean, why do you have to flex our muscles in every situation and invoke the law in situations where issues could have simply been resolved through a conversation? So let's resource the institutions to work, and that also means respecting them.
Yeah, Sheikh.
Yeah, Samson, thank you so much. You know, our environment is characterized when it comes to matters of law by the whom you know syndrome. And that is reinforced by the regard and the respect we give to certain people we call the significant or influential somebody. And that cuts across both within the religious space and the political space, within the traditional space. A chief can call, an imam or a pastor can call. But in dealing with this matter, in order that we don't create a situation where the current trend, the trajectory we are traveling, respect to the new wind of sanity we are seeing, that will not drop. In other words, how to sustain it. I think what I will encourage is the IGP should and must maintain his principled posture. Indeed, he has indicated the last meeting with us that ever since he has assumed office, there has not been any attempt to interfere in his work. I hope that it continues that way, so that as principled as he is, and if he can use his principled nature to influence those who are subordinate to him, and in fact into the lowest ladder of the police, then we will see a sustained movement towards an enhanced sanity in the work that we are doing. And I think that we as religious people, religious leaders who have the voice, must be those who will be in the forefront of supporting and helping the IGP to ensure that we bring sanity, so that we don't unnecessarily accept the pressure to intervene when we know, especially in matters of criminality, when the thing is of criminal nature, or somebody deliberately violating the public order. For example, deliberately, our young people who ride the motorbikes across the red light, for example, once they have done so with impunity, we must let them feel the pinch and the power of the law. And I think when we are able to do so, we shall be helping. But let me also add, by way of caution, I use my personal story. There was a day I was just driving from Achimota, coming close to the Abelempe traffic light. Over there are two traffic lights directing at different directions. But at the same time, they were confronting me as I was descending. So when I saw the green, even though the green was pointing to a different direction, I thought it was for me. So I rode through. And so the policeman stopped me and made an attempt to arrest me. I explained to him that it was not a deliberate thing, but that I got confused by the two traffic lights. He insisted, but I agreed, and he took me to the police station. The senior officer asked me, and I explained to him. And I think there was an intervention, and I was allowed to go. But even that, we must accept with all humility to go to the court and to explain ourselves over there, so that we see within the confines of law whether we are allowed. And I think doing so will help us to bring the sanity. I want to emphasize one thing. The police must live to their professional ethics. They must live up to their professional ethics, so that we restore the image. The lost image of the police must be restored, so that anywhere we can rely on them for them to give us the needed support. That is the submission I have.
Thank you very much. And we will take a break quickly and return to ask the question more straightforward. What will be the role of each and every one of us? What can we do to sustain this zeal, and more particularly, religion? It's exciting that you hear, and it's positive everywhere. I was reading this story yesterday. It is by this prophet Nigel Gacy. He says that I was about to commit a crime, but feared I would be arrested. And he was talking about traffic offense. He just stopped.
We start saying that the police or check one AJ, right? Now, yes, as I said, we had all cast off restraint, all of us, because we didn't have visionary leaders. And and you can imagine just taking one visionary leader, and suddenly there's a lot of self-discipline, self-check, which is how the society runs. And so maybe the more visionary leaders we have in our institutions, the more we will all be careful, right? And you see, we go through that traffic experience. I'm nervous every time I'm driving in that country because my wife is sitting by me, looking at the speed. Hey, 50. Hey, 40. That's the last I say. Of course, I'm going to sit at the back. You know, because of the. And you mentioned Domedevo. Right? You know, everybody knows. We went to the Supreme Court.
That's right.
For the disallowance and surcharge judgment, and Mr. Domelevo was by some divine act became Auditor General to coincide with that judgment, and he decided to run with that judgment. The records show that in implementing that judgment that Occupy Ghana obtained, he has his first disallowance of about 5 billion cedis that people were going to spend in false declarations to government about government debts, and he disallowed it. Before he left office, he had recovered, this is recovery, not disallowance, recovery, close to 70 million cedis. Basically, people who have chopped Ghana's money that he was able to go after on account of the judgment that we obtained in the Supreme Court
back
for him, and they paid back. Some challenged him, right? He won some, he lost some, but that's how it should be. Then, you see, was it Goldfinger? He says that the first time is coincidence, second time is a happenstance, third time enemy action. So suddenly we remember that he hasn't taken his leave, he's on leave. Then we suddenly remember that his age, discovered that his age is problematic, and at some point he even became Togolese. And when all of these happen, you see, the ultimate power belongs to the citizens.
Right.
And so there gets to a time where the citizens must say, we will not allow this to happen. And that is what didn't happen in Mr. Domelevo's case.
Okay.
Because when and of course, the system will come against people like that. But when these started and the mass of the citizens were quiet, our opposition parties not in government, were loudly silent, then it became blindingly obvious that they are probably on the same boat. And so without that mass, that we won't allow this to happen. This happened in Czechoslovakia. There was one priest who they were going to arrest. It was Mali, Václav Mali. And the people of the village said, you have arrested all our priests for speaking against the government. As for this one, we won't agree. That is what led to the revolution that finally threw off the communist regime. But we all looked at Domelevo and sat back. A few people went to court. The cases that went to court are still pending. And he's out of office. Now, so we have shown to Mr. Domelevo that it doesn't help. And that Abanejuma won't function watching Nazi. And so people are also, worried for Dampare that a day will come when a government will decide that he is carrying the job too much. Or some people with more power. Will we sit down and do a Domelevo out of Dampare? They all start with D anyway. Okay. That call is for you and me, the ordinary citizens, that we can say, you know what, we won't allow you to do this. Okay. Because the ultimate power is for the citizens. And if at some point we do not stand up and back leaders who are prepared to do the right thing, they will shrivel. And when they shrivel and wrinkle away, when another person starts, they will be reminded, Domelebo tried and was hit. Maybe Wudampari tried and was hit. Who are you?
Okay. There are sounds I'm hearing even on social media. People have sent messages, particularly the summons from Parliament to the police. Let's see how it pans out. People are angry at it. One comment that's in says that only a faithless Ghana Parliament will say members that make laws think their members are above the law to impede the work of the police. And I've heard comments that say that if they dare embarrass the police, if the police decide to attend, there are some who say they should call their bluff. If they dare, they will storm that parliament. Your quick comment before we go to the break about what your expectations are of the public for you to be able to maintain this zeal. That some are suspicious, maybe a 9-day wonder.
It's not going to be a 9-day wonder. One thing is the IGP has a program. The police administration has a program. And the program is to make sure that we use our professional judgment well, do what is good for this country based on law. And that is what we are doing. So he's so focused, and it's going to be a plan and sustained effort. I mean, regarding all programs that we've rolled out, it's not going to be a 9-day wonder. And he's so determined, and even to give it a boost, is the consultation that we see in dialoguing with religious leaders. And next week, we're dealing with civil society organizations. We're dealing with the media.
You're having meetings?
Yeah.
Okay, just like you did with the religious groups?
We're meeting civil society organizations. And there, what are the kind of police that they want? What are their expectations? And how do they want to see their police, work in their communities and country? At the same time, the media is also becoming on board, for us to dialogue and see how best things can go. And all these things will come next week. And so looking at the way the police administration has democratized its affairs through consultation, getting in touch, shows that our plan and sustained effort in restoring what have been lost over the years cannot be thrown out.
Okay.
And that will be by the people, serve them better. As the IGP always said, we are prepared to serve our communities better. And I think we're going to do this, and we expect the civil populace, one, to be law-abiding, provide information, report infractions, offenses, and criminal activities to the police. And people also should provide information that might be necessary, in combating serious and minor crimes in our communities, especially in the areas of violent crime, robberies, murders, and so forth. And even in our residential associations, neighborhood watch committees, we want to see people participating. And apart from even this week, is the Police Memorial Week.
Okay.
And come 2nd of November, we'll climax it at the Memorial Cenotaph. And thereafter, we're also going to experience Police Week. And the Police Week is basically enlisting public support for our activities, community projects, community security talks, discussing the police, how best police can deal with some problem-solving approach in our communities, among others.
Okay, and we take a break here. When we return, as you may have become aware, traditional priests, pastors, malams have been speaking about the fear of the police now. The IGP called them to a meeting in the week, and he warned them that there are potential criminal and civil implications or consequences. 4, excessive noise making. There are citizens who complain that they simply can't sleep. They can't have the slightest rest in their own homes because some 3 people have congregated into that school behind their house. They are having church, and their speakers are not in the classroom where they are having the church. They have brought the speakers outside, and they are blaring. People who are declaring and camping old women, unfortunately, some of them labeled witches, and the mentally sick who have been chained and are flogged in the name of healing them. Errant preachers who are broadcasting harm and death, and always their targets are people who are known in the public. They are causing fear and panic and disturbing the public peace. Some of them have started reacting. How can they rather help enhance law enforcement? Ace Ankuma, who delivered a paper at that meeting, will do a nice rendition here, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. Don't go anywhere. Let's have your comments, your complaints, and your questions.
Hi, this is Lexus Bill, host of Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM. Listen, you don't have to worry if you miss Drive Time or Personality Profile. It's going to be live on our podcast page. Just log on to www.myjoyonline.com/podcast. You can listen to Drive Time, Personality Profile, and any other of your favorite shows on Joy FM on that page. You don't have to miss a show at all. Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
You're welcome back, and my guest for this special edition asking what we all can do to assist the police to maintain and sustain the zeal for law and order for our own security. ACP Kwesi Ofori, he's the Acting Director General of the Public Affairs, Ghana Police Service. Ace Ankuma is lawyer. Sheikh Armiao Shaibu is spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, and he's the acting chairman of CODEO, Coalition of Domestic Election Observers. And Reverend Professor J. Kwabna Samoa Jedu is Minister, Methodist Church Ghana, and President, Trinity Theological Seminary, Legon. Just a couple of your messages, and then we get Ace to get into to tell us where we are and what is it that we do in religion that could have criminal consequences. This one from Yakubu Ibn Chambers. He says, first of all, the Ghana Police Service has proven beyond doubt that Ghana has the men to do the job. The Ghana Police Service has been a sleeping giant for far too long. Therefore, the need to bring men like Dr. Dampare to put a pep in the step. The Ghana Police Service knows its limits in its line of duty. But if an MP dares urinate on the street, he will be gladly arrested. Okay, Yakubu Ibn Chambers, thank you for that message. And then Baba Chairman in Tamale, you say, I agree completely with your panel, most especially Ace Ankuma. What's refreshing to have him on your show. Ghana has all the fine laws to guide and protect all of us. The problem, however, is the type of leaders and their zeal to put these fine laws to the least test. A case in study is the current IGP. This is from Rex J. He says, kindly ask Mr. Kwesi Ofori, is it now that they, the police service, are hearing about traffic offenses, tickets, and the revenue it can generate for the police service? This is common knowledge about policing in the Western world. Ghana police just love taking bribe, period. Okay, so they've been talking about this for quite a while, but it does appear that the financial muscle, what they need, and the laws to make it operational has been the problem over the years. The first time I heard about it, it's been almost like a decade since I heard the police saying that they wanted to do this. This is proverbial Twitter. Kofi Amwa says, our problem is embedded in the capricious exercise of discretion. Our laws have permitted people with discretionary powers, and that will make them powerful. That is why morality will always rank higher than legality for me. Who can stand the court of public opinion? Thank you. General Sikutu says the speaker must be reminded, or better still, pinch himself that he ain't the president and Ghana is not running a parliamentary supremacy system. Sita Muhammad says, now the Ghana Police Service is on the verge of couching a new name and identity for itself, thanks to the new IGP and the appointing authority as well. But members of the service, especially those at the MTTD, should help with the new branding. I suppose you understand what he means by they should help, the MTTD. I think sometimes they are the ones who like to take a lot of the money in the public. Digura Batino says, aside the politicization, unqualified and dysfunctional appointment of persons based on favoritism, families, and friends, when our political leaders appoint people who do not merit and are ineffective, it makes our institutions fragile because they are only satisfying something. You don't say it. Collins Little Tete says, your regular thief will not be the one in Mosque with a gun pointing at you to bring your valuables. It will be intellectuals in suit and tie who are well vexed in an area of study to rob you. The police must go after all of them. The system has to work, and for which it has to be fixed. Both in the developed and developing countries, lawlessness is punished, but questioning is its discriminatory nature. And for the police, they collect the fines for themselves because they don't trust the next person. Prince Henry in Koforidia says, to be sincere, Dr. Akufo Dampare has brought some sanity into the Ghana Police Service and the country at large entirely. IGP Dampare should visit the beating of his own colleague at the seat of the presidency, DSP Nanka Bruce, and let the culprits face the law of Ghana. Papa J. Jr. Elikem says the police administration is actually doing what is expected of them. The big test, however, will be how they will handle politicians who still drive in the middle of the road with sirens blaring. Well, we have been given an example of what is going to happen to those who sit in those V8s and do misconduct themselves. I read this final one. It says, great conversation today. The IGP may be willing to make a change, but we also need to safeguard the process and ensure that his objectives reflect across the country. I am particularly interested in what his regime intends to do to ensure that other police officers across the country are in tune with his vision. Here, I suggest that they should be resourced. It is about time the IGP invests heavily in technology through the procurement of body cams to fight crime. It is only when police officers are aware that they are being watched that we can derive anything meaningful from the IGP's vision. The police cameras on the roads, police body cams with strict compliance to ensure that all field officers switch on their cams when on duty. We can do this. This will also prevent the so-called powerful in society who commit crimes but turn around to blame the officers instead. One man may have the vision, but how can he ensure that everyone else falls in line with his vision? And that was a long one from Togby. Okay, Togby, the name just vanished. Thank you so very much. Now, Ace, what is it that the churches, the mosque, the traditional people will do that will take them beyond their comfort zone and put them in the way of trouble? And that's also warranted the IGP beginning this kind of meetings with them.
Well, there's a statement that when it's made, it gets the hackles of religious people up. But it's the truth, and it must be said that Ghana is a secular state. Ghana is not a Christian state. Ghana is not a Muslim state. It is not a state of traditional religion. Ghana is a secular state. It's a secular republic. The constitution is secular. The institutions are secular in nature. Now, this does not mean that I'm saying Ghana is an atheist state or is a nation of agnostics. If you say a state is secular, it means that there are four things that happen in the state. One, it guarantees individual and corporate freedom of religion. And so to the extent that I have the freedom to be a Christian and you have the freedom not to believe in anything at all, means that the state is secular. Two, it deals with the individual as a citizen irrespective of religion. And so even when I'm arrested, it is not because I belong, I don't go free because I'm a Muslim or a Christian. I'm dealt with as an individual, and my religious views do not matter. Three, we are not constitutionally connected to a particular religion. And indeed, our constitution says in Article 65 that Parliament has no power to declare a state religion, that we should all belong to one religion. It is clear. So that we are not constitutionally connected with a particular religion. Neither does the state, that's four, that seek to either promote or interfere with religion. We won't promote one religion over the other. We won't interfere with your religious rights, as long as you keep within the bounds. And there's this case that went to the Supreme Court, Bonfe versus Attorney General, who went to the Supreme Court to say that because the state is secular, the government is wrong to be engaged in the Hajj and in the National Cathedral. And the Supreme Court...
It's very recent.
Recent.
The CPP's Kwabena Bonfe.
Kwabena Bonfe,
okay.
Yes. The Attorney General. The Supreme Court said, well, look, the features of a secular state is that there is religious pluralism and diversity. You are entitled to believe in what you want to believe. So nobody discriminates against anyone where that is concerned. But within the context of the secular state, the Constitution must be understood to allow or even encourage state recognition and accommodation of religion and religious identity. You can be whoever you are. You don't have to believe in what I believe in before you're a citizen. It is all because the state is secular. And so the state being secular also does not mean that the state cannot assist or cooperate. Now, whatever conclusion the court came to, the critical issue was this. The Supreme Court affirmed that the state of Ghana is a secular state. I'll also refer you to another Supreme Court case, Warren and Okujeto, where Akamba JSC said that it is important to remember that our courts are not ecclesiastical courts rendering divine justice, but ordinary secular courts delivering justice according to mortal laws. So when we go to court, our dispute is not resolved by the Bible or the Quran or some other holy script. It is resolved by man-made laws because we are a secular republic. Or some Penanco versus Latte, where Archer J, as he then was, said that there is no established religion in Ghana recognized as the religion of state. The courts in Ghana apply the laws of the country and not what the Christian Bible teaches. So we might resolve our dispute privately by the Bible or the Quran. But if the matter goes to court, nobody is going to rely on the Bible or Quran. I did say at the presentation that I think the only time God features is when we swear on the Bible or on the Quran and then proceed to lie immediately afterwards. When we are sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, the next sentence is, even about our names, is sometimes a lie. Right?
So sorry about this slight distraction, but judges, police who are applying the law may interpret and apply the law from their experience and encounter with the Bible, the Quran, and so on.
Yeah, there could be a value system that would come into place. But ultimately, what determines our dispute will not be the Bible. And if a judge actually says, I'm giving this decision on the basis of the Bible, that decision, in fact, you don't have to appeal. It will go out by certiorari. Right. Because he has no power to apply the Bible or any other holy script.
By certiorari means to be quashed, it will be thrown away.
Removed, erased, expelled. It won't exist anymore. In fact, if it exists, it will be an example of how not to behave as a judge. And so our disputes are resolved by man-made laws made by Parliament. And laws as the courts may make it, the evolution of laws, customary law, common law, etc., etc. So there's no established state religion. And indeed, I'm not only talking about Christianity. There's a 1976 decision by Ando J, Obing alias Nkobi Ahene versus Jabba. It says, in a court of law, it is difficult, if not impossible, to adduce legally acceptable evidence to establish the efficacy of fetish. But we can't be talking about fetish in our courts. We are dealing with man-made laws. So as you see, I said some for the Christian religion, and I said some that the same thing. We can't determine what happens in court by fetish. The court says you can go and resolve your fetish things outside this court. But when you come into this court, we will only go by what the law says. So having said that, we must then understand that we don't live on our own. We don't live by laws that we have made unto ourselves. We live by man-made laws. Right. Now, I won't say that any of these that I'm going to describe was made with religion in mind. It's been made because we are a secular state. It's been made with all of us in mind. If you fall in on account of your religious belief or practice, the law will not say that because it is you and you were praying, you are allowed to disturb your neighbor. If you look through our constitution, the freedom of religion is upheld several times. I don't need to go through it. But there are also clear limitations that they will not allow you, even on a religious platform, to propagate a theory or principle against the statehood of Ghana. And so you cannot mount your platform every time and deprecate the Republic of Ghana. It's a useless state. We all should, I don't know what else to say. But the Constitution says you can't do that. And Parliament can actually pass law to restrain you. It is not targeted at a pastor. But if a pastor decides that his propaganda, his message is to deprecate the state of Ghana, the Constitution will stop you because it is a secular state. Now, so I could bore you with all the constitutional provisions, but there you see it. You have the right to religion, but subject to the provisions of the Constitution, Article 26, 35, that the state itself will promote the integration of the people and no prejudice on grounds of religion, creed, or other beliefs. So your religious right is protected. But in the same way, there are restrictions, and that is where I want to deal with it in the next couple of minutes. Okay. One, a pastor or priest is not a public officer. But if that person is performing functions in respect of issues like notification of marriage, solemnization of marriage, that person, that minister of religion, becomes a public officer.
Okay.
So when you go into the mosque and the marriage is being conducted, for the purposes of that marriage, the minister of religion, the person who stands in as the minister of religion or ecclesiastical officer, is a public officer. Now, if that person is a public officer, then there are certain protections. One, assault of a public officer. So while the man is conducting the wedding, you go in there and obstruct the wedding, or to molest him, resist him, use threatening, abusive, or insulting language while he's conducting the wedding. It is not just normal assault. It is assault of a public officer. It is as if you did that to a policeman. Because once they are performing those rights, we give them the status of a public officer. Two, so if you fabricate evidence with intention to mislead a public officer, that in going to the priest, you forge your divorce papers. It's fabricating evidence with intent to mislead a public officer. You go to jail. Corruption of a public officer. What has become topical recently? Deceit of public officer. And let me explain this.
Right.
The lady was sentenced to 2 jail terms. One was Section 208, publishing false news.
That's right.
One was deceiving a public officer, because the minute she appeared before the police and made the kidnapping allegation, it was deceit of public officer. So while she was jailed for 2 years for the false news, she was jailed for 6 years for deceiving the public officer.
Which is a minimum for deceiving.
Yes, which is a minimum for deceiving. So if you are going to see a pastor for the purposes of marriage, and you go and sit before him and lie, you could go to jail for 6 years. Because whilst the pastor is performing that function, the pastor is a public officer. And in no other function.
So the pastor has become the property of the state.
Absolutely, because the pastor has decided to exercise those powers in performing certain rights. The pastor has become a public officer. Outside that, he's not. And of course, accepting or giving a bribe to influence a public officer. But there are also certain offenses that can be committed only by public officers. For example, falsifying books. So if the pastor sits down and for the purposes of a marriage, falsifies a marriage certificate, offense, because for that purposes he's a public officer. Or falsely pretending to be a public officer, corruption, willful oppression, which is the abuse or causing injury to the public, extortion, issuing false certificates, destruction of official documents. All of those are offenses that a pastor may commit simply because the pastor is a public officer. So the pastor has certain protections if he's working as a public officer.
What official document will a pastor be destroying to get him into trouble?
Similar to marriage certificate. The man comes and says, Charlie, yesterday the marriage, I don't like it again. Let's burn the certificate. And the pastor, let's shred it. You're in trouble.
Okay.
The death certificate, if they come to you and help, let's destroy the death certificate so we can claim some insurance. The pastor is in trouble as a public officer. So you see that the law is not going after pastors.
So will the pastor get the same protections that a public officer gets?
If the pastor is working in the capacities that I mentioned, the capacities of notification of an intended marriage, publication of the banns, solemnization of marriage, in respect of making or keeping a register or certificate of marriage, birth, baptism, death, or burial. Marriage, birth, baptism, death, or burial.
And almost a similar thing applies in Islamic marriages.
Absolutely, the same thing. To the extent that the minister of religion, so maybe it's better we use the term minister of religion, or ecclesiastical officer of any denomination, is performing any of these functions, that person is a public officer. And all the public officer related offenses apply to that person as though the person was a public officer.
Okay.
Now, the one that, of course, leads to most of the thing is what I call noise crimes. Once again, nobody sat down and said that churches cannot make noise. There are laws against noise making, period. And if you are arrested for noise making, the fact that you are a church is not a defense. Neither will that send you to jail. What might send you to jail is the noise making.
Okay.
So, for example, playing any instrument or making loud noise within 300 yards of a place where a court is sitting is an offense. So if you are building your church, check whether there's a court near you. Because the day you decide to have a Wednesday afternoon meeting while the court is sitting, if you play any instrument or make loud noise, you have committed an offense.
It's the same as somebody deciding to organize a party at midday while the court is sitting. The same law will apply because the state is secular. So it will arrest the party person. It will arrest the noise as long as it is noise made by the pastor or priest or church. As long as it is made within 300 yards of a court sitting. But this is the other one. Making loud or unseemly noise that disturbs the peace or annoys or disturbs another person. So let's even take the court out of the situation. And so someone was telling a story that the church said they were building a mission house next to him.
Okay.
By the time he realized, they had started prayer meetings. And by the time he realized, it was a full-blown church going on next door with the, us charismatics, with the noise. Now, if you make loud or unseemly noise that disturbs the peace, you have committed a crime. It doesn't say if the church makes, if anybody makes. So if I decide to have a party and bring out all the speakers that are possible under the sun and make that noise, I have committed that offense. Just as much as the church. Just as much as the mosque at 4 a.m. or the church at 5:30 a.m. or the itinerant preacher who decides to preach in my area at 5 a.m. So I went to preach with him. I took my car and I put my hand on the horn while he preached. Don't follow me, I'm not a good example, but that's at 5 a.m.
No, I can't believe a church boy like you would do what you just said.
I did it. Now, I'll tell you why. The Psalms in this, and I've said it there. You see, I think that the days of ignorance, we have been forgiven of them. But these things need to have done some before. The dawn broadcast at 5 a.m. With a megaphone, screaming at people to repent of their sins. And so there was a lady who also decided that she would preach the same sermon just around my house. Now I'm in a corner plot, so she walked to one gate and the other. And I would have and I'm from home already. And I'm lying in bed and I'm like, what do I do? I see young people are laughing at the back. But just when I was about to make the noise, then I saw something told me, you deserve it. You too, you have done so before. Samson, there's nothing worse than there's a crusade going on near your house. And the song that is being used to disturb you is a song you wrote. And it's not even being played well.
Interesting.
So I've learned that, look.
Some of the pastors are already beginning to speak and say, IGP is targeting us.
No, it is the law that has not been applied in the country. And he's saying, I'm applying it across board because this is a secular state. But he's saying, churches, mosques, you are kind of in the front line. So I'm coming not only after you, but after the disco session, but after that, you see, if you want, you go to the church, Samson, it's 15 people in the church, but the loudspeakers are outside. There was one near my house again. It's as if, God and heaven knowing what I've done, target me, pa. There was this church, and that's when they are setting up. Then a certain evangelist who is not a member of the church will pick the mic whilst they are setting up. So while the drummer is doing tom, 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 while they tune his tom, he is preaching. And all he's preaching is about those of you who live in those houses who will give yourself to God. And he will curse you, condemn you to hell, and everything. Loud noise. That is what the law is against. And it's not because you are a church. Simply, you are not allowed to make loud and unseemly noise anywhere. And but that is also, there's a civil aspect of it. Civil nuisance. The criminal part goes to Chief Kwesifori and his people. I can decide not to go to them at all. I can decide to sue you. Because there's a tort called nuisance. Now, this is the tort of nuisance. You are not allowed to use your land in a manner that wrongfully interferes with another's enjoyment of land. So you have your land. You can't use it in a way that disturbs the other person. So it could be vibrations. It could be noise. It could be smells. It could be fumes. You cannot keep rubbish in your house to smell and send flies to the next place. You can't be burning rubbish in your house and polluting my house with smoke. It is nuisance. And this has nothing to do with the church.
So somebody is saying Ace is just speaking my case for me.
Well,
the burning that goes on in homes, residential areas, in prime areas, Burning that goes on during the day, even in the night, even when it is raining, you are burning.
Yeah, well, it's all a crime. And if I don't want to go and chase the police, I can sue you. And the court will injunct you. The court will say, damages for what you have done in the past.
All right.
And in future, injunction. Don't do it again. If you like, do it again.
All right.
Chief and his people will come and pick you for contempt of court. And you will go to jail. These are laws that exist. Nobody is doing them now. They exist. And we all should have...
They've already started, let's get to that part. They've already started talking that the IGP is saying they shouldn't, give prophecies. That he's saying they are issuing threat and all of this.
I'll deal with the prophecy. Let me make a quick branch into another thing.
Okay.
Now, the church or mosque premise is a public place.
Okay.
So let me explain this to my friends, the pastors. It might be your hall in your house or even your bedroom. But the minute you begin to use it for a religious meeting or religious assembly, it becomes a public place. And so then the law on public places apply there. So the church room, the mosque room are public places. Whether it belongs to the church or not, it's a public place. It might be a classroom, but once you use it for a religious meeting, it becomes a public place. And it might be your hall. So maybe when you start the prayer cell, be careful. It becomes a public place. It is a crime to behave irreverently or indecently in a chapel, church, mosque, or other place for religious worship.
I didn't know about this one.
Yes.
Behave irreverently.
Irreverently. Section 296 of the Criminal Offences Act. You can check it. So if my church believes that prayer is in reverence to God, silent, and you come in with noise, you could go to jail. You could be fined because you are behaving irreverently. If you decide to sing indecent songs in church, so while the church is singing a song, you are singing a university version of it. Certain university hall version of it.
Yes.
It's a crime.
Okay.
It is also a crime to disturb or molest a minister of religion while celebrating a religious rite or office in public place. So now we have even left public officer. So if a pastor is preaching and you decide to get up and argue with him in the church,
there are these protections.
It's in the law. These laws have been there before independence and were reaffirmed in 1960. The thing is that they sit on the books. We never implement them. We never apply them. And so people do not know they exist. Well, I'm giving you the opportunity. I said the days of ignorance.
So those of you who enter into a worship place to cause a fight and all of that.
There. The law will get to you. But then let's get to the prophecies of harm or danger.
Right.
There's no provision of the law which says you can't prophesy.
Okay.
Because the law is not targeting prophecies. But this is what the law says. And I want you to pay attention to this very carefully. It says, if you publish or reproduce a statement, it wasn't just statement, that says room or report, which is likely to do one or two of two things. Likely to cause fear and alarm to the public. Or two, disturb the peace. That's just it. You publish a statement which is likely to cause fear and alarm to the public or disturb the peace.
Publish means I write it or what?
No, disturb alarm to the public. Remember that the church room is a public place now.
Yeah, but where it says publish means I write it.
Any conveyance of it, any communication. If it is in your head, it is not published. Publication at law essentially deals with communication.
When it can be heard.
When it can be heard. Where it can be sensed by any of our senses. I'll get to the senses part of it. And so if you publish or reproduce a statement that is likely to either cause fear or panic to the public or either disturb the public peace, knowing or having reason to believe that the statement is false. Knowing or having reason to believe that the statement is false. I say, but it's a prophecy. A prophecy is true. Hold on. The definition and explanation of false here is not really whether it's true or a lie. It says, to prove that your statement is not false, not that it's true, it's not false, you must prove that prior to publishing it, prior to communicating it, you took reasonable measures to verify its accuracy. Now,
but the prophecy is for the future.
Then you're in trouble. Then nobody's saying that don't have the prophecy. Be careful how you communicate it. And so if you have a prophecy that there's going to be an earthquake and half of Ghana, I mean, maybe that's not true. Half of Ghana is going to be affected by an earthquake. They said, take your time. You have received it. Nobody doubts it. How are you going to communicate it? Is it on your church on 31st night, blaring into microphones and loudspeakers? Or are you going to call Chief and say, Chief, what will the government do about it? I hear to affect this town. So the government can decide that let's deal with the seismic people. Maybe this is spiritual, but it makes me a boom. Do you see any seismic signs that leads that this is going to happen? So if that is going to happen, what do we do? Do we evacuate people on the due date, etc., etc.? That won't get you into trouble. But if you decide to publish it, communicate it, when that report is likely to cause fear and alarm or disturb the public peace.
It shouldn't cause the fear and alarm.
Even it's likely. It's not that it has caused it. It has the potential to.
What kind of crime is this? Likely.
Like that there are many likely offenses. That,
I've done the thing, it's likely to.
I'll tell you,
it hasn't done it.
The root of this law was this situation. We are sitting in this room. Then I shout, bomb. And then we run out and people get injured. They said, wait, when making that statement, I shall know that it is likely to cause fear and alarm. Which would then mean that we'll all run out of this place and somebody's likely to get hurt.
That's right.
So that, I've done them seti thing. It's a crime. So doing seti is a crime. Just like shine body. I'll show you that one as well. Right? You know that. So if you do this seti thing, and so it translates into this, that you say this person is going to die. Death is not good news. I mean, even the Lord Christ was worried about going to die, although he came to die. Right? And so if you do that, then the law will say, well, how were you able to verify
the accuracy?
The veracity, accuracy. Now, in court, it says you must prove. Proof by the Evidence Act means testimony writings, material objects, or other things presented to the senses. Presented to the senses. And so if it cannot be seen, heard, smelled, tasted, or touched, it's not evidence unless it's opinion evidence. And so with due respect, Prophet, it's not evidence in court.
So and by the time you are saying that,
you are in jail. So receive the message, but how you deal with it, how you handle it.
But the Constitution says I have a right to a religion of my choice and to manifest it.
And to manifest it, but it also says that subject to the terms of this Constitution and subject to laws for public order. So your right is not absolute. There's no absolute right in the Constitution. And so this is saying you may receive your prophecy or word of wisdom or word of knowledge. But how you communicate it is what the state says be careful about. Once again, it is not your prophecy.
Right.
It is the communication of it.
Right.
And so if you decide to communicate it, publish it, so that the public becomes aware of it.
All right.
Then you could get into this trouble. Now, in terms of evidence, there's a very interesting case, Abochi and Numo, where the defendant called the plaintiff a witch. And the plaintiff sued. And when the case came to court, the defendant said, I want to call a fetish priest to come and prove that the plaintiff is a witch. My defense is justification, but my proof of the evidence of the justification must be provided by a fetish priest. The court held that they were wrong. It says that the law will not recognize the performance of rituals as a proper method of investigation.
Okay.
And that when the opinion of a witness is founded on nothing that is recognizable as evidence, it is worse than irrelevant. The traditional mode intended to be adopted by the fetish priest to prove that the plaintiff is a witch should not be countenanced by the court. The fetish priest cannot be a competent witness. So even a fetish priest who can come to court will not be deemed a competent witness, how are you going to call the Holy Ghost in evidence?
Pause here for me, and I'm getting tons of messages that are flying in, and the former chairman of the NMC says, I should thank you for bringing up some of these issues, particularly the burning of rubbish in communities. He says it's a major issue. I'm talking about Kwesi Jana painting. Now, let me come to Prof and Shay. And Prof, we have already begun to receive reactions from some of the quote-unquote errant preachers. And they are saying that the IGP has issued a directive to them. I don't see a directive though. And some of them are actually issuing things that sound like a threat to him. Is it the case that many of our preachers don't know what we have in our laws about noise, about bringing people in a camp that they are whatever and they are being flogged and so on, and this issue of the prophecy that is broadcast? Somebody is on the back of the steering wheel driving, he's a popular person, the next thing he hears on the radio is his name and being told that he's going to get an accident, and that moment only God knows what may happen to him. What do you say?
What do I say? Thank you very much. And perhaps we should have brought the person who made the prophecy into the studio. As you know, I also teach in a seminary. And, I'm the president of a seminary. And one of the courses that we offer in this seminary is a course called Law for Pastoral Ministry. And the reason why we offer that course is so that we can educate those training for ministry in some of the laws and provisions of our Constitution that Ace has spoken about so loudly and so clearly. In other words, at least the historic mission denominations do recognize that you cannot be lawless when it comes to the practice of religion and faith. And so the people who pass through our hands are trained to be law-abiding when it comes to the exercise of their public functions as ministers. Now, the question that I've been asking myself in these past couple of years is, why has the prophetic suddenly become the most important thing in Christianity and also in our politics? I mean, we've had Christianity in this country for 200 years and over. And suddenly, within the last 30 years or so, everybody is claiming to be a prophet of one sort or another. It ties in with the issue that we were discussing earlier on, Ace was talking about earlier on, about noise pollution and things like that. In the first place, who determines where a church is, a church building placed? It goes back to the institutions of state. Who has stopped the police, for example, from acting against noise? Before I come back to the prophetic element of it, the economic costs of these things to our country can also be very, very high. I have a friend who established a savings and loans business. And this individual purposely cited the business in the market so that he can give small loans to ordinary market women. The business collapsed. Why? Because these market women will take the loans, shut up the shop, and go to church on a weekday. And these things are all over the country. Of course, the state cannot stop people from going to church on a weekday. But the institutions for which these people work can keep an eye on them, that they are fulfilling the obligations for which they are paid. So I think in as much as we need to call out these prophetic figures for causing fear and panic and chaos in society, we also need to exercise our civil duty in calling people to order. Ace talked about behaving irreverently in a place of worship. I will include with prophecy kicking people, sometimes stripping them naked, and stuff like that.
We have seen people step on the tummy of a pregnant woman.
Exactly. So it's almost like religion, or if you like, Christianity, has become a nuisance. Something that is supposed to build people up. I mean, if you read the theology of prophecy from what Paul says, to encourage, to comfort, to strengthen, why should it be a source of a nuisance to the public? And so I think that the IJP and its men and women should not allow themselves to be cowed by these threats. In any case, more than half of the people who call themselves prophets, I don't consider them to be genuine. All you have to do is to interrogate what they do in the light of biblical teaching and realize that a lot of them are just doing it either for commercial purposes, economic reasons. Of course, that is not to deny that the prophetic is genuine. But what I'm saying, that even in the Old Testament, the New Testament, there were cases in which prophets had to be chastised, prophesying what the kings want to hear. I'm surprised that the politicians have taken these people on board because they tell them what they want to hear. So we all have a role to play in dealing with this, what has become a menace as far as this prophetic thing is concerned.
How do you begin to think about it, that some of these people are candidates for prosecution? They are doing God's work for as far as they are concerned.
Yes, but if the law must be applied, it must be applied without regard to whatever anybody claims to be. Because unless you begin to take those actions, people are going to take the state for granted. So the law must be applied. It doesn't matter whether the person is claiming to be a representation of God or may have heard from the Holy Spirit and so on. Sometimes people can prophesy for self-serving reasons. And we have seen a lot of them. They want political space. They want economic favors from people in high office. About 3 years ago, there was a prophet. There's a prophet in this country. I won't mention his name. People know him. He caused to be published the fact that 2 very significant figures in this country were going to lose their lives. This was at the end of the year. Incidentally, both figures are members of my congregation. I had to do damage control by telling them not to be afraid, nothing will happen. 3 years down the line, they are both around. But I would have loved for such a person to be interrogated at the police station as to why he publicly declares death on people. I have a friend who's also a professor of theology in Germany. And I went to visit him once, and he says to me, come and talk to your people. Which people was he talking about? A Ghanaian church in a German city. You have traveled out of this country. Things are not going well. You are not documented. And you stay in Germany and fire the blood of Christ and the fire from heaven to kill your mother and your grandmother in Ghana. And so this professor called me and says, go and talk to them because it's against German law to wish somebody dead verbally. So these things go on, and as I'm saying, I think the law must be made to take it course. 2 or 3 people are dealt with. They are
now tell me, how will you say, because you train men of God, how will you say?
Not all of them come here.
Yeah, I know. How will you say they should go about this manifestation? Because as we understand, the Holy Spirit will arrest you and you are not in control of yourself. How should they go about it so that they don't get into trouble? What you said about not wishing someone death, well, Ace doesn't share the view with me, but in our law, it says that if you issued a threat of harm to somebody and the person apprehended, became afraid because of the threat you issued, you are guilty and could suffer 3 years in jail. If you spoke about death to me and I became afraid by virtue of what you have said, just by that, you could go to jail for 10 years. How do they avoid this situation, knowing that they have become aware that the police is going to crack the whip?
Now, when we talk about, say, theology, for example, a place like this is a theological institution, we usually will tell the student, the fundamentals of theology. One of the fundamentals of theology is what we call the sources of theology, and we normally identify 4 sources of theology. They are scripture, tradition, experience, and reason. The last one, which is reason, the other name for it is common sense. And so, whether you are interpreting scripture or prophesying, the spirit is never out of control. And so you must apply common sense. And if you are a prophet and you can't apply common sense, the reason why the scripture says we are created in the image of God is because God is a rational being. And so we have some rational sense within us that we must apply in the execution of our duties in whatever gift that God has given us. So my thing is, a prophet that does not apply common sense is not worth seeing in the first place. And why should we even allow our lives to be controlled and dominated by people who claim a prophetic gift or a prophetic ability? There was one business owner who was completely living in panic because somebody just walked into the shop and said to this woman, I have seen a vision of your family carrying a coffin, and it seems to me the one in the coffin is you. And do you know what the condition was for praying for this woman? She asked for $1,000. Out of panic, the woman paid.
Extortion.
Somehow,
it says that's a criminal offense of extortion.
Exactly. So she came back for more money, and I just happened to be around. And then I said to her, if you don't bring the first $1,000, I will cause you to be arrested. And then she brought it back. So fleecing the flock by instilling fear into them. And it seems to me that in a church context in which religion has become competitive, when anything becomes competitive, it is commercialized. When it is commercialized, people use underhand way.
Okay, I'll go to Sheikh. I'll go to Sheikh, and then we'll take a break. When we return, I'll ask you again what you think should be done at your level of leadership. There are various, organizations for Christian churches that come together. So, Reverend Professor Kwabena Samoa Jedu, when I return, I would like you to address that. How do you use such platforms to try to resolve these things? But Sheikh Armiao, these issues, does it come to you that our priests, our imams, in all the other religions, and also in Islam, it's simply a question of lack of awareness, or what?
Thank you very much. I think
your link just froze a bit. I'm hoping that we can get you restored immediately so that we can hear you. Okay, so we'll be right back. Please stay with us. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And we can see that very many of you are really enjoying the show. My guests are ACP Kwesi Ofori. He is Acting Director General of Public Affairs, Ghana Police Service. Ace Anan Ankoma is a lawyer. Sheikh Arameyao Shaibu is spokesperson, National Chief Imam, and Acting Chairman of Kodeo. And Reverend Professor J. Kwabena Asamoah Jedu is Minister, Methodist Church, Ghana, and President, Trinity Theological Seminary, Legon. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Lexus Bill, host of Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM. Listen, you don't have to worry if you miss Drive Time or Personality Profile. It's going to be live on our podcast page. Just log on to www.myjoyonline.com/podcast. You can listen to Drive Time, Personality Profile, and any other of your favorite shows on Joy FM on that page. You don't have to miss a show at all. Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
is what we tell each other every day. At Joy News, we tell your story. You have a story the world should know about? Tell it to Joy News. We are your home of bold, credible, and fearless journalism. I am Emefa Apau.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's our special edition asking how you can help the police to sustain this zeal, positive energy to continue to enforce law and order, to bring sanity in our communities. My guest, Reverend Professor J. Kwabena Asamoah Jedu, is Minister, Methodist Church, Ghana, and President, Trinity Theological Seminary, Legon. Sheikh Arimiao Shaibu, a spokesperson for National Chief Imam and Acting Chairman of CODEO, Coalition of Election Observers. Ace Ananankoma is a lawyer, and ACP Kwesi Ofori is Acting Director General of Public Affairs, Ghana Police Service. So they threatened Ace that they will arrest him into the studio if he didn't come, and that's why he's here. Now, Sheikh, thankfully we have your line back. Can we hear your presentation? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what I was saying is, they can do with religious diversity. So many things can happen, and people with nefarious intentions can exploit, especially in an environment where we have large percentage of our population that are desperate, that feel helpless about a certain situation. That makes them so vulnerable, and in that vulnerability, those religious people with nefarious intentions can really exploit them. And that is why, even though they do some of these things, we still have their churches well populated. And sometimes one cannot understand, how can a woman lie down for a pastor or so to put his foot on her tummy? And the tummy, she's a pregnant woman. And not just placing his foot on her tummy, but he presses on it so that the baby in the distance will also be injured. And yet she laid down. That is the situation we find ourselves. Secondly, the desperation, economic situation, the get-rich syndrome. And we see huge billboards. And some of them have found their way on television screens. And they give assurances of conditions that will make you rich by the day.
Okay, Sheikh's, Zoom is frozen again, but we certainly work it and hear him again. I'm bringing Kwesi Ofori in and to ask why this interest. They are meeting sections of the society. He says they will meet with civil society organizations, they will meet with various others, they will meet with media. Why the interest in religious leaders of religion? Why that interest?
One thing is the police administration is very much aware of the religious freedoms or freedoms granted to faith organizations and institutions. And we are also very much aware of the laws of the land. And of late, as we've seen, there are a lot of infractions as enumerated by Mr. Isankuma. For instance, churches located in residential areas, people making noise over amplifying their voices and musical equipment, making people restless in the night. And it is the responsibility of the police, to make sure that such infractions are put to a stop. And this is what the
How
police...
about the city engineers and all of them? Because every place has a zoning policy.
Yes, the
policy either says this is residential, or it is commercial, or it is mixed residential commercial. Yes. Why do you allow them to build a church in a residential area?
The heart of a community. For instance, I was in Kigali. In Kigali, churches have their area, hotels. No, it has been properly planned. Without such infractions among others. But here we are. The city authorities need to do more across the country. They need, not to allow the landowners, land dealers, to demarcate and plan our cities. It is time we give a better planning. But all that the police is saying is we've also seen that prophecy, through prophecy, it creates a lot of fear and alarm. Others also call it panic. And it's been going on. And one thing is, for them to go out publicly, create that sense of insecurity. Therefore, that meeting, as you questioned, was to bring men of faith together with great assistance from Mr. Ankuma and your good self to see how best we can bring the two institutions together, create that understanding, that commonality of purpose, to enable us move on. And by so doing, we believe that this conversation is now going far.
Okay.
Across, even beyond the Muslim Christian faith.
Okay.
And it's good for our society.
Right.
And all that the Inspector General of Police and members of the police administration want is to make sure that authority of the law or the spirit and letter of our laws prevail. And this is what we are doing. It is not a question of not trying to chastise, religious institutions or targeting religious leaders, among others.
Right.
They should know. For instance, we know of some of them, they run it 24 hours in community residential areas. And when people complain, they are labeled as witches, wizards, among others. But we are in a country full of laws, and we'll make sure that...
And these laws were made in 1960.
1960. Some were even before 1960. And this is what we are doing. So we just wanted to sanitize our communities and country in
as
general.
Ace spoke about, gave the example of, saying there'll be an earthquake and the rest, which, if it caused fear and panic in the public, by the law, the maximum is 3 years. But is it in 2008 that we did the Electronic Communications Act, and they are doing this on TV and broadcasting.
Now we've gone electronic. So guess what? If the message gets on your Facebook Live, your YouTube, then you go to jail for up to 5 years. So if you do it in your hall, that is misdemeanor, up to 3 years. If you elevate it to the internet, that could take you to 5 years.
We heard not too long ago when the pandemic, set in, is it Pastor Chris? The UK, he was fined for giving information that was false and that sought to impede the delivery of medical services.
Trust you, we have that law here. That law says that a person who by means of electronic communication service knowingly sends a communication which is false or misleading, doesn't have to be for now misleading, and likely to prejudice the efficiency of life-saving service or to endanger the safety of any person. So if you get online with that Pastor Chris kind of message, you could go to jail for up to 5 years. Guys, I'm just presenting the law to you. Avoid this.
I think that is section 76 of the
76 of the Electronic Communication Act. So if you take that same harm and danger prophecy and you add to it your anti-vaccine things, you could, to the extent that the communication is false or misleading, or likely to prejudice the efficiency of life-saving service, or to endanger the safety of any person, ship, aircraft, vessel, commits an offense, you could go for 3,000 penalty units or term of imprisonment of up to 5 years or both.
That's like 36,000 Ghana cedis.
Yes, but nobody will look at that. The jail term up to 5 years.
So all that we are saying is that the police is not anti-Christ institution. It is not anti-God institution. But it just to make sure that the laws of the Republic of Ghana plays a center stage in our operations. And we'll make sure that we implement it, and those found culpable will be dealt with according to law.
Yeah. Right. Now, I see Ace was taking note of a few things, but some of the comments that have come in, this one says, University of Newsfile, full of education. It is time to regulate churches. That's the only way to stop false prophecy and charlatans parading themselves as pastors. It is done everywhere in the civilized world. We have identified the problem. Let's go ahead and deal with it decisively. There are similar such messages I'll read to you.
That's even to America. Well, look. So, thanks, Chief. You see, the issue about citing of churches, it's very simple. If your church is cited in a well, there ought to be zoning. There are zoning issues, zoning laws, where you can situate what. If you're in a residential area and you want me to come and play my guitar with the overdrive, then build a theater that keeps the sound in there. Then you can make as much noise as you want to make within the confines of your theater, and nobody's going to be. But it's open air, and you say, hey, come and give me a solo. Me too, when the thing comes, and I step on that pedal, and the thing has come, I'm tearing my ears and everybody's ears. We should all learn from this. I am learning. I mean, I'm not keeping myself out. But it's interesting about zoning laws. They are actually zoning for religious groupings too. If you've been to Sakumono, there's a place where all the churches are next door to each other.
That's right.
Away from everybody.
That's right.
But it's very interesting when one church starts disturbing the other. Because their churches are so close, if they have praise and worship at the same time, one's praise will eat into the other's worship. Or one's prayer will eat into the other. And sometimes when I've been in those churches, it's been very interesting. But I think then they found accommodation for each other. So you praise and then I praise and then praise and maybe sometimes you listen to a sermon in one and one's praise is coming into the church. So we can zone in such a way that we put our noise making at one side of the zoning, then we have to regulate ourselves on where that is concerned. Now, I am gradually being convinced on your thing that the prophecy of harm could be threat. You see, because it says that if you issue the communication with the intention that it will cause fear to the person. Now, intention is not only direct, it can be oblique. In fact, a person is deemed to intend the probable and natural consequences of his act. So if I come to you with death, and everybody's afraid of death, then I could be deemed to have intended the natural and probable consequence of my act. But that then takes us into a whole realm, because threat of death is a second-degree felony. 10 years. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody's saying don't prophesy, Mr. Prophet, Madam Prophetess. All they are saying is, be careful how you communicate it. Look, isn't it the same script that says the spirit of the subject is subject to the spirit of the prophet is subject to the prophet?
That's right.
So anything that you are so overcome with the message you can't keep it is untrue. Because if we test, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, we'll find that you should be able to control it. Nobody's saying do not prophesy, but just be more careful in your communication of it.
All right.
And the thing about assault in churches, if the person comes to your church, that does not mean you should give the person a cement block to carry and run around. You see, when we get to the law of assault and battery, a critical element is lack of consent. So if I consent that you can punch me and you punch me, it is not assault, it's not battery. But remember that consent, as regulated by Section 14, can be voided. So that if the person exercises a certain level of duress over you and you consent to it, your consent is negated. So the person is deemed not to have consented to it. So if I come to your church and I'm under your control and authority, your duress, your influence, and you say I should lie down, I lie down and you step on my belly, my consent for you to step on my belly is removed by law. So it is assault with battery. That is where you see that I'm hitting you and I actually hit you. Assault without battery is what we call on the streets inshallah body. Hey, you know, I didn't really hit you, but I put you in fear of immediate unpermitted contact with your person. That is also a crime.
Okay.
And then the imprisonment, the prayer comes. When they bring the witches, you tie them up. It's assault with imprisonment. You could go to jail for all of that. So we are not saying do not do your work. Be careful how quickly you touch people. So we've seen videos. The man of God is sitting on somebody's head. The man of God should be making a beeline to jail. It's like Monopoly, go straight to jail. If you pass go, don't take 200. So there's law. And we must regulate ourselves, you know, especially those who are leading in the spiritual set. So nobody is here to issue threats to anyone.
Okay.
All we are saying that there are all of these laws in this secular state which are not directed at you. If the law catches you, the fact that you are a pastor will not stop you. Will not stop the law from coming to you. And you can exercise your religious rights recognized under the Constitution, but subject to these limitations. Let's respect the limitations. That is all.
So I'll return to you finally on the question of regulation. What's really a church? We may be able to get something small about that. We are hoping that Sheikh's line is clear now. This one says that prophecy is thriving in Ghana because we either find ourselves in hopelessness or want to hold on to fame and power at all costs. Prophecy will tell you what you want to hear, Ampa. As a potential entrepreneur, I'm even looking out for an opportunity in the sector. Okay, that's Kofi Amwa. Peter Entry says exactly my point. Who is in charge of citing of churches, institutions should work? And then Jojo Kote says that God bless me and all of us with the alacrity, dexterity, and advocacy of Ace and Comma. Gifty Ando Appear. Hey Gifty, how are you? Says apparently if you shot somebody body, it is an offense in Ghana's constitution. Okay, so we are not talking about the constitution, we are talking about the criminal laws. Einstein's quote, and this is from Adriansa. That's your name? It says, some folks have absolutely no regard for the peace of mind of others. Then Ikeda Eshen says, what if I do SETI on April Fool's Day? That is April Fool prank. Theo Echampong.
I haven't seen that as a defense in law yet.
Right. Dr. Theo Echampong, once he gets the effect the law says you shouldn't get, then you are in trouble. Sorry, Dr. Theo Echampong says, fantastic insights by Ace Annan Ankoma on revelations about Ghana's laws and religion. And then this one says, how do we call the Holy Ghost in evidence? Argues Ace. All right, so that's still a champon. Clement Yabua says, please, my question with regards to the noise making is, what are the measures put in place by the Ghana Police Service to deal with government officials who blow sirens just to pave the way for themselves during traffic and other situations? Well, if you heard earlier, he says that they are actually going after a number of them who have been caught on their cameras this week. All right.
Actually, they have. They are just not publishing it.
Okay.
But some big man has been busted and fined for using a siren when he wasn't supposed to use it.
Right.
It's going on now.
Leila says, another classic episode of Newsfile. Ace is in town. Great show. Thank you, Leila. And got more of your messages, but let's get to Sheikh. Unfortunately, his line has been disappointing us a bit. But Sheikh, let's hope. I was going to say a prophecy over that Zoom. Let's hear you. Let's continue.
Yeah, I mean, one area of breach, which I think necessitates the law to sanitize the way religion is given expression in our social circumstance. If you take the Muslim community, one area that I consider is you'll find, for example, in Ramadan, two small mosques that are opposite to each other across a street. And both of them have powerful loudspeakers set opposite each other. And then in the midnight, when we are keeping night vigil, all of them, the imams will be reading at higher tones and will be crossing each other. But what is my worry is that, especially if the area is also populated by non-Muslims, these non-Muslims have got the right to have their rest in the night. They are not Muslims. And yet you will find the loud recitations now will deprive them of the right to have rest. I think that, like Ace said, the common sense for me is the most important here. And to keep the loudspeakers in moderation, there is an acceptable standard decibels, which will not bring harm to anybody. It's one of the areas that I wish that certain regulation can be made. And then finally, during Ramadan, when we are doing our preaching, I think that it's important that we draw attention to sometimes the tendency to also preach hate or to be excessive in the emotions that we spew out as a result of our preaching. This is also an important thing that we have to bring our minds to, such that we all cooperate with the police to ensure that we bring sanity. Anything less than this will mean that even as we are given the freedom to express our religion, will give rise to some confusion which we do not want in our society. So I want to call on the police to go ahead and do their work, maintain their professional ethics, go ahead with the consultations with stakeholders, and let's all be on the same page so that we can have a better understanding of the law and how it works, and that the law will not be used. Let me end up by saying, with the prophecies, Samson, assuming I am a Muslim, I come to say that I slept in the night, but I had a vision that God has spoken to me that I must topple the government. What would the law say about that? That will be an infringement and subversive to the law of our country. In this particular case, the law will have to take its own course. Like any other statement that is injurious to our social harmony, what we want to do because we think that a certain higher authority has inspired into us a certain prophecy. I like the point that was made that let's use common sense even in matters of giving interpretations to what we think is a prophecy. Anything less than this will give rise to confusion, which we should not allow.
Thank you so very much. Kaba Nelson says that he tweets that I have been listening to this show for the past 10 years, and for the first time, my soul is satisfied in today's show beyond recognition. Thank you very much, Kaba Nelson. And I was coming to you to finish up and the questioning of the regulation, but there have been some suggestion by some people that Section 137 of the Criminal Other Offences Act, the publication in a journal or newspaper or an advertisement of a notice relating to fortune telling, palmistry, astrology, or the use of any subtle craft, means or device by which it is sought to deceive or impose on a member of the public, or which is circulated or is likely to deceive or impose on a member of the public, is illegal, and this is punished by our law. That can't we amend this and then specifically bring in prophecy? And I say, will that pass constitutional muster?
It's almost there. This is what they call the charlatanic adverts in newspapers, right?
Yes.
So you should see the context in which this comes. Right. So look at this as the juju and tricks equivalent of fake prophecy.
Okay.
So the law covers all of them. It covers the false prophecy on 208. It will take you to the Electronic Communications Act, and this is the juju equivalent. You know, where you publish these things. Okay. Charlatanic advertisement. Right. That certainly gets you into jail as well.
All right. Yes. So what do we do? Regulation.
Look, we don't need any other regulation. There's sufficient law in Ghana which is not targeted at churches per se, but it applies to churches, and we regulate a lot of these things. Churches may be one or two things: an incorporated trust or a guarantee company. Trust comes from trust law. It's simply this: that the owner of property has given the property to you to hold for the benefit of another person. That's the most basic definition. There are various other definitions. So if you are a head of a church, you are in a trust situation. The property of the church belongs to the church and not you.
Really?
No, it's not yours. Get this right. This is law. It is not yours. You are in a trust situation, especially if you have incorporated this as a trust. And then if you have incorporated as a guarantee company, there are 4 key ingredients of a guarantee company. No shares, no profit making, no dividend or distribution or return of assets. So the church cannot buy a car and dash it to the man of God. It happened in London. He had to refund. Yes. The church cannot buy a vehicle and give it as a gift to the man of God. It has distributed an asset to a member. It is against the law. It must be refunded. And when it happened in London, the Charities Commission took over the running of the church and made sure that every pound that had been paid in breach of the law was refunded. Oh, and this is the further part. If you are a director of a guarantee company, you cannot hold a salaried or fee-receiving office. If you are a director of a guarantee company, you cannot earn any money, which then means that the head pastor, senior pastor, founder, Pope, Archbishop, Cardinal, Bishop, everybody, you cannot be on your board if you earn a salary from the church. So you must have, in fact, you must have a board that is independent of you, which will then hire you and can fire you.
Fire me? Who said the church?
Absolutely. The law says that, but you are just a member of the church. The directors take the decisions, and you can't serve. If you want to serve on the directorship, then you don't earn a salary.
This is Ghana law.
Ghana law. Our Companies Act. This has been there since 1963. We just cleaned it up in 2019. Gawa wrote this for us in 1963. We are just scared to implement it. But the law is that if you are a member of it, if you are on the directorship of a guarantee company, which a lot of these churches are, you cannot earn an income. Except under certain circumstances.
Time just ran out on us. And I can give Reverend Professor Kwabena Samuel Jedu just some 30 seconds. What should the groupings under which these churches come, what can they do?
Well, thank you very much. What I take from Esankume's submissions over the period is that a lot of the leaders and ecumenical bodies, as we call them, are ignorance of the law. And of course, that's not an excuse, as we say. So perhaps the place to begin is to make sure that religious bodies and organizations take the law seriously. And of course, self-regulation, I think, is usually the best. I would suggest that the ecumenical bodies, whether Christian Council of Ghana, National Association of Christian Charismatic Churches, JPCC, all of them, take the law seriously and get the various leaders to teach their people what the law is, so that we don't infringe them.
Thank you so very much. I'm very sorry, but time just ran out on us. My guests have been ACP Kwesi Ofori, who is Acting Director General of Public Affairs, Ghana Police Service. They are coming for you. My friend Koe Suman says, I think the IGP should be sending prophecy police to church services and prophetic sessions to record them. That would be disaster. Is Anna Nankoma is lawyer, and we can't thank you enough for what you have taken us through today. Sheikh Arimiyao Shaibu, spokesperson, National Chief Imam, and Acting Chairman of Kodeo, and Reverend Professor J. Kwabena Asamoah Jedu is Minister, Methodist Church, Ghana, and President, Trinity Theological Seminary, Legon. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini. Thank you so very much for your time.